So I'm going to talk a little bit more about getting your dog to be okay with ignoring distractions. Ideally, you're going to start this in a really easy location, like your living room or wherever you normally train your dog. Because Leica and Merlin are a little bit more advanced at this point, I'm trying it in a really difficult location. So you start easy and then you gradually work your way up. I want to show you how I deal with mistakes when my dogs do it, so that's why I'm starting here. The first step that you need to do is make sure that your dog can just pay attention to you in the environment. So all I'm doing here is I'm letting Leica acclimate. She hasn't peed in a bit, so she's gonna pee. And we're just gonna let her kind of explore the area that I've kind of marked out in my mind and just let her do what she wants. Good, yes, good girl. Okay, go play. Yes, good girl. Excellent work. Go play. Yes, good girl. I thought we were ready, but turns out that nope, we weren't actually ready. We need to do a little bit more acclimation. Yes, good girl. Yes, good girl. And if your dog can't look at you in the environment without any intentional distractions out, you're probably working in too hard of an environment and need to find a slightly easier one. So step one is going to take a little bit for Leica and Merlin in this environment, but step two is going to be putting out an intentional distraction that's pretty easy and seeing if they can choose to ignore that distraction. You're going to use the 2-cookie method to reward them for not getting the distraction. And now, because she kind of looked at that, I'm going to start rewarding with the 2-cookie method. Okay. Yes. Good girl. Good girl. Okay. Now I'm going to make it a little bit more difficult. Once we have our dog pretty successfully paying attention to us in our environment and ignoring an intentional distraction, then we can start making the distraction a little bit more difficult. So we can make it a little bit more accessible. We can make the distraction itself more enticing. So for example, my dogs don't really like carrots. So if I wanted to make a distraction more enticing, I could use kibble or I could use whatever I'm rewarding with. Remember, with all of this, we want to do the 2-cookie method because we want to reward them immediately when they do something right, but we also want to encourage them to come back with us by opening the jar. Now this makes it far more likely that she might look at the jar. Yes, good girl. Now she wasn't very close to it, but I'm still going to do the 2-cookie method. Yes, good girl. And 2 steps away. Nice job. I think I'm going to put the lid kind of back on. So it's really down, yes, at her level. When you do things like that, you want to make sure that you're immediately ready to reward good behavior. Yes, good girl. The third step is going to be asking your dog for a little bit of work besides just not getting the distraction. So starting with the very basics like sit, touch, come, down, whatever your dog is really good at. So now we're going to start to do a little tiny bit of work. And so when she pays attention to me, sit. Good. I'm going to ask her to do something. Okay. So now there's that bit there. She doesn't pay attention to it. Good. I'm going to have her come with me. Good. Nice job. Now, when you first start out, you can have cookies in your hand. If you don't need cookies in your hand, I would try to keep them out of it. So I'm going to make it a little bit more difficult again. Yes, good girl. Because I made it more difficult, I wanted to make sure I rewarded her for ignoring it. Good girl. And now, okay, I'm going to start asking her to do a little bit of work. So one of the things we work on a lot is getting into a heel position. Yes, good girl. Heel it up. Good. And I'm going to reward for that. So you can see here, we're asking for more. We're asking her to ignore all the distractions in the environment, the distraction of the kibble on the ground, as well as asking her for more work. Okay. So your work can be, for example, loose leash walking. It can be sitting. It can be down. Good, yes. So I wanted to make sure I rewarded that because she was looking at the girl and didn't go for it. Good girl, touch. Good girl, sit. Now jump up. Good girl. Now you want to make sure that before you go on to the next step that you're to the point where you are rewarding with the same value of things that the distraction is.